Hi, Professor. This is Malak, my entrepreneur, and this is the interview portion for the project. Hi, Malak. I
Hi.
want you to talk a bit about yourself and about your background and how you were raised, your cultures, and all that.
Okay, so my name is Malak, as you said. I'm 22 years old. I was born and raised in Egypt. I was raised in a very traditional Egyptian household where we valued the Egyptian history and the culture of Egypt, and this is where the concept of Mawlaya came to life.
I also want to talk to you about a couple of other things, and I'm going to be basically explaining Bill Ollitt's steps for success on how you start a business and how everything goes and what you're supposed to be doing in the business in order to have success with it. And I'll ask you a couple of questions and also explain how the process is and what you should do to get to that success. So another question was how did Mawla make use of non-financial resources and resources in general?
Okay, so Mala started as a two-person business. It was a friend and I. We started together by making designs using old photographs of Egyptian culture and history. And the way we started is finding the resources that we needed to make the project come to life, like the fabrics for the hoodies and the factories, and having other people help us with the graphic and the printing and all that process. So it was made through connections at first. And then we started looking for different factories and testing them out and testing the fabric. And most of the fabric we got was actually from like low priced areas in Egypt, where we would like go physically and shop for the kind of fabric we wanted and then take it to a factory to manufacture the hoodie itself or the t-shirt or the product that we were making at the time.
And during those steps, were there any obstacles you faced with your friend?
My creativity, like not really, like we didn't face many obstacles working together. We were very used to working together, but the obstacles as a whole portion, like dividing the jobs or finding the right factories and such, there were definitely some obstacles along the way.
Could you please expand on like what certain obstacles there were, like when you were trying to find the material for the t-shirts, for the sweatshirts and everything? Was it hard to find them or was it an easy process?
Definitely wasn't easy at first, especially in the very beginning. We first thought of getting ready-made hoodies and t-shirts and then just printing on them to make the process easier. But then my friend, he wanted to make everything from scratch, so we started the process by shopping for fabrics first, and we had to learn a lot about making t-shirts and hoodies. And then we needed experts for that because we aren't like manufacturer experts. To find the certain fabrics and take them to, and then shop for the factories or the places that we got the fabrics from. And then we tested out almost like 10, 20 factories in making different hoodies and t-shirts at first with different size charts, and it was very complicated at first.
Yeah.
And we just had to follow a step-by-step process into making it.
Okay. So I'm going to be going into now the steps for the success from Bill Ollett. And so basically there are 6 groups for success, and each group has a couple of steps with whatever, and they all add up to 24 steps. So the first group has 6 steps, and those 6 steps are probably the most important steps because this is where you start the business and start the whole process, where at the beginning you started looking for material and looking for factories and all that to actually design your hoodies and t-shirts. So the first step is what made you start, basically. What was your driver to start the business?
Okay, so there was a very big gap in Egypt, like a few years ago, finding like Egypt-based streetwear, especially that everything in Egypt is mostly imported. So we wanted to embrace the Egyptian culture from Egypt using Egyptian materials and embracing everything that we can about the country that we live in, and that's what started it all. especially that we see like a lot of international brands embracing Egyptian history, but they aren't actually made by Egyptians or even in Egypt. So definitely that was part of the idea, but also because uh, at that time, like the idea of Egyptian culture and embracing it through products was very hyped up in Egypt at the time. So we took a chance to enter that market, especially that we were just graduated from high school and we were very free. So we wanted to do a new project and embrace that as well.
Okay. So there are 5 more steps. The second step was basically market segmentation. So you divide the market into sections and see what market you want to sell to. The third step is actually selecting the market. So you segment the market first, divide it into whatever you want to do, and then actually select one of those segmented markets. So you select somewhere you want to sell. The fourth step is an end user profile, which is basically having someone in mind that you want to sell to. Like if you're talking about classes, you talk about class A, class B, or whatever, and then you see a person or try to actually imagine a person wearing your clothing or that's going to shop for it. So someone that's specifically for them. The fifth step is profiling a person to sell to them. This is putting a person with characteristics, features, and everything, and saying, okay, I'm going to do this hoodie, for example, I'm going to have the logo here, I'm going to have this on the back or this on the front, because I believe this person wants to show everything, his characteristics are this and that and whatever. So these are a couple of steps, and the last one is identifying customers similar to your person. So you look at the market, see who could be similar in that market, and see who could be a person to shop at your stores. That's similar to the person you're defining. What do you think you put? Which steps would you think you did out of all those 6 steps?
Okay, so for our like targeted audience or the clients that we mostly focused on is perhaps mid to late teens and young adults, focusing on the streetwear aspect. Like people keeping up with the hype and embracing that culture. But it also came to us that since we're embracing like old culture, that this might appeal also to actually adults. But our main focus was perhaps people from 16 to their mid-20s, and this was the main audience. People focused on streetwear and all the hype at that time. Most of our fits are very oversized and made to go with the street style that is very in right now. So we were trying to focus on that. And for our target audience as well, we like ranged our prices in a midway, not very high and not very low, to appeal to perhaps the like a mid class or like high mid class on like appeal, to just have an in between. But that definitely changed a bit over time.
Yeah. So this was the first grouping. The first 6 steps were the first group. As I said, there were 6 groups, so there are 5 more to go. The second group has 5 steps, so it differs from every single group. It doesn't matter really what group you're into. So it consists of the 5 steps. The first one was, why would people demand your product and spread the word? So why would people actually want your product? What makes you different from competition and all those things? The second step was creating a visual image of the product. So you put something that the world can see, like someone, possibly you or your friend. You could go out with the sweatshirt and people could recognize it then. Make it like something that people don't know or something like that. So people can actually start investigating and seeing, oh, I like this hoodie, I like this t-shirt, I want one like it, and start investigating and building up hype for the brand. The third step is pricing your product, which you said you price on the middle range. And this is for the second grouping, but you did it at an early stage, so it was better. And the fourth step is being different from your competition. So what makes you different from other people? You have to put something that's different from your competition, so people would demand your product and not theirs. So, for example, if it's your pricing better than other people in your competition or in your range, that would be better. If it's your fabric, if it's your material, whatever it is, it's supposed to be different from your competition to make the demand on your product even more. And the last step is the customers would have basically two priorities. What are those priorities compared to your competition? So if a customer would say, I would either go with Mawla or Richa, for example, why would I choose Mawla over Richa? What would you say would be, why would people demand you over your competition, or and who are your competition really in Egypt?
Okay. So starting from the beginning, I would say like more or less different from our competition because mostly like we're all friends, we all know each other, we all like work sometimes side by side. But comparing as a person who has both products,
Yeah.
honestly, but comparing the fabrics for us, we made the process from start to beginning because we wanted to ensure like our fabrics would be good enough and would last long and it would be accessible to a lot of people as well as a bit endurable. So focusing on a newer style of printing perhaps, and this was one of the faults in our competitions, like the printing would fade after a while and we wanted to make sure, so we would use perhaps laser printing instead of other types of printing. But what really took off for our business or helped it is that my friend our partner has a very big social media following, so we use that to our advantage in showcasing our products on his page, and that really helped the brand take off even more and reach a whole other like circles that we wouldn't be able to reach instead. And this also helped us gain a lot of followers on our social media and everything, which made it better. But also the pricing really helped us, like comparing to our competition. Our main competition is one brand, but they're a bit expensive compared to us. There's a difference a little bit, which really helped us because if people weren't looking for something that expensive, they would refer back to us, which is also a gain for us and for everyone, I think, because it was very moderate. But also, what really helped us is that in Egypt, especially at COVID 19, a lot of things weren't accessible to people, and people were struggling to find like new clothes or
Yeah.
shopping or everything. And that's when the brand really took off because people would just shop on Instagram sites, and this was really helping other businesses take off, but especially ours because it was accessible and it could be delivered in 2 to 3 days, and we were delivering all over Egypt, even in different cities. And it was easier than having something shipped from outside and everything was cut off because of COVID. So this really helped us.
Okay. So this was the second group, and the third group is has also 5 steps. And the first one is, who are the people that can influence buying power? So as you said, it was your friend's Instagram account where that was your that was a basic influence to your buying power. People would look at the Instagram account and see, okay, this is a person I like. This is his brand or your brand, both of your brands, and they would say, okay, I want to try this. It might be good because I know he's a good person or I know everything about him. The second step was, how long is the sales process? So how long does it take to usually sell a product? If I order a product today, when will it arrive? Well, how does it start? How do you start manufacturing? Do you have it as a stock in a warehouse, or do you actually start printing when I make my order? And the third step is the sales process itself. So basically, in the short term and in the medium term and the long term, in the short term, yeah, you're trying to generate demand more than anything else because you're still a starting brand, so you want people to actually know your brand and starting to realize and spread the word around Egypt. And for the medium term, you're trying to keep the customers that are already here from your short term. And for the long term, you're basically just trying to manage all your clients, all the people that you already have, and trying to build upon them, trying to make them even more loyal customers that they would buy even more every single time. The fourth step is actually that's all of them. There are only three steps.
Okay, starting from the beginning, like um, in the start, we have a lot of friends who have very different jobs but have like high social media personas or whatever. But some of them, we use them to our advantage, especially that maintaining good relationships with people that are already like famous or well known, but or have a lot of influence. So we use these people at first, and we started by making perhaps using one of our very close friends who's also a model. So we used her in the beginning to make a video, like a teaser and everything, and that really helped us and connected us with that world more, and having more connections and more people giving them gifts at first to show the brand or get it out there. And then for the sales process, we started out at first by making a couple of test samples to first test out the waters to see. But then when the brand had its own identity and we were 100% sure like of the prices we were going to sell, we used to make them by stock or having different drops, as we call them. But first making perhaps 100 t-shirts, and then we would make the t-shirts and have everything ready, and the stock would be there in our office and everything, and then we would post it on social media. So when the people would order, it would only be the delivery time and not the printing time or the making time, because that takes a very long time, and it's not always like a guaranteed time time thing. But we wouldn't have to wait or rely on the factories or the printing or anything. We would have them ready to deliver, and that's it. But then for now, we do the different drops at different times, like having perhaps a first line drop and then deliver. And then if we see a lot of orders coming, we would make perhaps a bigger, we would order more or make more and then do the second drop. And sometimes people would ask for a lot of old t-shirts that are already sold out. So when we find a specific number for the delivery, we would make them again. So we would know that it's worth remaking them, because we would know we would sell them.
Okay. So the fourth group has two steps, and the first step is, what is the business model? So what do you guys go by? What do you want to do? And the second step is your pricing index. What is your price now compared to when you started? Anything changed, or is it still the same pricing?
Okay, so sorry, what was the first one?
The first one was your business model. What do you mean? What do you do? What is a theory or something that you go by, a principle you go by in the company?
Okay, so as I mentioned before, the whole idea of making this brand was to embrace like the Egyptian culture and everything. So we would take like old pieces and turn them into new pieces, because we want to get the new generation familiar with the old generation and everything that special about that. So that was the whole point of making the brand. And what was the second one?
Your pricing index. So what's your price now compared to when you started?
Okay, so when we first started, we started with actually a low price. We compared like the price of what we spent on the t-shirts, and we wouldn't make like a big difference between what we spent on the t-shirts, or there's a specific name for it, I can't remember.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't have that much income at first, because we wanted to have a reasonable price. But after the brand really took off, and we had like guaranteed customers and guaranteed selling, so we started slowly increasing the prices with every drop, and definitely it increased since the beginning.
So if you were to put it in numbers, like I know it's in Egyptian currency, so if you would put it into numbers, what was it when you started and what is it right now?
So the first hoodie we sold was for around 400 or 450, and now the hoodie, like the latest hoodie, or not the latest because we still haven't had our winter drop, but for last winter it was around 600.
Okay. So this is the fifth group. There are 4 steps. The first step is to identify your key assumptions that haven't actually been tested. So things that, for example, that before your next winter drop, what would you assume would sell out? What would you assume would still stay and still be in stock? The second one is to test your key assumptions. Like if you're assuming that a product won't sell, you would go and go and see with a group of friends, a group of 20 people or something, and tell them would this hoodie sell out or not, and would see actually if people would buy it from your friend group or a group you're testing. The third one is to define the MVBP. This is basically a small process where you define something that's happening in the company. And the last one is to prove customers that they will buy your MVPP. So it's basically your most valuable product or something like that, your best selling product until now. What would you say for the next winter drop are your key assumptions?
So for every drop, we focus on having the basics, embracing our theme. Perhaps we make first the black and white t-shirts, for example. And these are mostly our like tradition, having first the black and white, which are always there, but every year there's a new print or a new theme or and everything's new, but it's always the same color for the fabric, black and white. And these are mostly the highest selling, but they are always there. And each drop we make other t-shirts to go along with them, so they're in the same drop, and we change these colors every time. So usually we make a bigger bigger drop for the black and white. We make more t-shirts because we know they're gonna sell. We tested them out before and they're guaranteed to sell. But for the new colors, we always make a smaller stock, and because we don't know how it's gonna turn out. But usually we do take our friends' opinions a lot, actually, showing different people, different friend groups, people with different styles, just to test out the waters, and they really do help us. Like sometimes they have a lot of stuff they tell us to do or change, which we take into consideration, of course, because these are our target audience, and they're part of the people that we are trying to sell to, and they think like them. So definitely we do take that into serious consideration.
Okay, and this is the last group. This is the 6th group, and it has only 1 step. Is actually to develop a production plan. So for your next drop, you actually want to develop how you're going to produce them, what colors you're going to produce, and everything. Do you think this is a process that you actually think about, or do you not really put enough thought just picking out the colors and testing with friends and just simple as that?
Definitely, there's a process. It's kind of a long process. We start out by picking our pictures. Most of them are actually black and white because they're very old. And then going into the design process, which is like the graphics and everything, and making them, and we usually make them like on Photoshop, Illustrator, but picking colors. First we make different folders, like physically make different folders, one for each t-shirt we're gonna make. Like if this print goes better with white, we put it in that, and then making different graphics, and then deciding. And then comes the fabric selection. We usually have the black and white, they're always there. Sometimes the nude, which I'm wearing. And then other times we have different colors, and then comes the tricky part, which is going down and choosing the specific color for the fabric that we're going to create. And this is definitely a tricky part because we want to find, we just can't pick a color like pink, for example. We have to go pick out a shade and see what appeals to the demographic we're appealing to, because it's unisex, so it has to appeal to everyone. And after that, we have to see what kind of print we want to do, because some t-shirts have like smaller prints, they have a specific type of printing. Other bigger prints have laser printing, and we have different factories for that, and we use different people for that. So and then there's the photo shoots, or the after the t-shirts are physically made, before the drop, we have to take like another part into consideration, which is how we're gonna drop this, or how we're gonna present this to our audience, which is usually a photo shoot or a video. And definitely this process isn't easy because we try to make something not basic and as different as possible for to keep ourselves interesting to the audience. And then comes when we have everything ready. Usually we make the photo shoot with our test t-shirts and the ones that we already have. And then as in the meantime, the factories are finishing and we have our stock. And once our stock is ready, we put in the drop and launch the whole drop once at a time. And then we start taking in the orders and contacting our delivery partner company, which usually help us because the orders just don't finish one day at a time, they keep going. So we divide them into like cities or sections and everything, and there is the local delivery, and then there's the country delivery, which takes to other cities. And right now we're trying to have an international delivery, which is also going to be tricky, but is in the works.
Yeah. So these are actually all the groups, and I just have a couple of questions about things that you learned from the groupings, from the steps, from everything that I actually talked to you about today. So, which steps would you say you agree with most? Is it probably market segmentation, production plan, or was it maybe being different from your competitors?
So definitely, like the production plan is very important, and I think it's essential to launching any business, and having a clear step-by-step plan is like very, very important for that. And as well as focusing on the competitors and trying to be different, but also knowing what's already out there and what we're trying to do and how is it different. So comparing that is very important. Yeah.
And which steps would you say you most struggled with? Would it be pricing your product, finding something against your competitor, your production plan, starting the business, your ideas, your printing, your profiling of a user, something more?
So having a lot of competitors, like right now, having a brand in Egypt is very popular, and there are a lot of new brands that are having the same ideas and trying to embrace Egyptian culture, which is very popular right now. But trying to make something different is one of the biggest obstacles we've had, like trying, especially now that it's not just one competitor, but there are around like 10, and they're trying to make something different and something that stands out is very hard.
So one last question is, what would your advice be for people that actually want to start a business?
So first is have a plan, know what you want to do, and know exactly what you're trying to do and have a goal, and then taking it step by step. Like there is no need to look into the future, just take it step by step and make a clear plan with listings to start that, and accept help from others, because that's very important too, because our friends played a very huge part in this, having connections around you and having like perhaps, for example, a friend's mother who owns a factory or something, and everything links. Just having good relationships does help, but mostly having a clear plan and organization.
Okay, I think this is it. Thank you, Malak, for your help today. And thank you for listening and actually putting everything and telling me about your company and everything that you did.